I felt there was nothing else to do but to give the property back to the direct descendants of Willa and Charles Bruce. And that is what I am announcing today, that it is the county's intention to return this property.
I am the author of SB 796, the bill that will finally allow the Bruce Beach to be returned to its rightful owners, the Bruce's family. The residents of Manhattan Beach and all of California face an uncomfortable history dictated, I should say, by racism and fear, and resulting in the loss of land and property. Between the years of 1912 and 1924, these Black-owned properties experienced tremendous amounts of hatred, harassment, hostility, and violence, including at the hands of the Ku Klux Klan, who cold-bloodedly threatened the Bruces and the families who dared to enjoy their property. Earlier this week, the City of Manhattan Beach City Council adopted a statement of acknowledgement condemning the history of the Bruce's Beach. But I say it was tepid at best. It was far from a full-throated apology that this community, this state, and this nation deserve. And they clearly did not endorse what we're trying to accomplish here today. But recent events have proven that now is the time for major change, and the public wants to see justice done, not hollow lip service and empty promises. With the support of Supervisor Hahn and Supervisor Holly Mitchell, I look forward to working with the county to get this legislation signed into law this year.
Imagine with me, if you will, 100 years ago, the kind of hatred, and I would argue fear, that would compel a group of people to stop another group of people from enjoying that. Discriminatory policies and laws robbed the Bruce family and numerous Black families of the opportunity to create generational wealth through property ownership.
You know, as a representative of Manhattan Beach, as a South Bay resident for 25 years, that I know that Manhattan Beach is not a racist city. I know that there are good people, people like Mayor Pro Tem Hildy Stern, that was fighting. That was fighting for an apology from the city of Manhattan Beach to the Bruce family for what happened 100 years ago. I know there were other people. We have former Mayor Mitch Ward. We have Kevon Ward. We have so many people in Manhattan Beach that were fighting, that continue to fight for an apology from the city of Manhattan Beach. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan apologized on behalf of our country to the more than 110,000 Japanese Americans who not only lost their property, but lost their freedom during World War II because of the unjust incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II. And of course, you know, President Reagan didn't have anything to do with the incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II. He was not talking about the United States of America being a racist country, and yet he was big enough to give an apology on behalf of the United States of America to all people of Japanese ancestry for the loss that they suffered during World War II. And so, if President Reagan can do it, then the mayor and city council of Manhattan Beach can do it.
We all know the story of the Bruce family. We already know the shenanigans of the Manhattan Beach City Council. My family asked me to tell the city council that when you go low, we stand toe-to-toe. We will not tolerate the insults that are coming from your council. And we highly suggest that you start revising your budget very soon. My name is Chief Dwayne Yellowfeather, the designated representative for Charles and Willa Bruce. For those who don't know, Willie was the name that her mother's slave master gave to her. She threw off that name and decided to be called Willa. A grown woman, a grown consenting woman. And here we have someone on the city council decides to call her by that slave name. A slap in the face to the memory of our matriarch. Then they issue an acknowledgement and say in that acknowledgement that the events that happened, the terrorism that happened to my family was reportedly done. The facts are ostensible. And people say, I'm angry, I'm strident. Yeah, I am. I am the generation, from the generation that Charles and Willa Bruce prayed for. And we're going to stay here until the job is done. We want restoration of our land, restitution for the loss of enterprise, and punitive damages for the collusion of the institutional racism in this city that railroaded our family out of here. We reserve our rights on this earth to be men, to be women, to be human beings, to be given the rights of human beings, to be given the respect of human beings in this country, in this day, and in this society, and in this damn city. And we intend to bring it into existence by every means necessary. Thank you.
I remember growing up as a kid, and I grew up in San Diego. My grandmother was born in 1905 in Kentucky. Came across our country in a wagon to move to San Diego. And I remember plenty of stories that my grandmother told me, Granny. And one of the stories that Granny told me was in San Diego, when they wanted to enjoy a beach experience, that they had to drive to this beach in Manhattan Beach. There were no beaches in San Diego County or Orange County that welcomed African Americans then.
Good trouble in Manhattan Beach. It's my honor and my pleasure as a mayor of this town, former mayor of this town, to welcome the world to Bruce's Beach, Manhattan Beach here in Los Angeles County. As Willa and Charles Bruce said, all are welcome. And when my friend Bob Brigham came to me when I first moved here in this town 30 years ago and told me about him riding across the street up there on the bus with his mom and said, "Mom, why is that place overgrown with grass?" And the mother said, "Shh, we don't talk about that here." Well, when I became mayor, I said, you know what? I'm going to talk about it because I want the world to know what we had here in the city of Manhattan Beach in 1912. An entrepreneur, a black woman, that said, I have the money, I want the land, and it thrived. People from all over Los Angeles County came here to this beach because they couldn't go anywhere else to enjoy the Pacific Ocean freely. We must never, ever forget that.
I inherited this movement on Juneteenth of 2020 when I realized that the history on that plaque was inaccurate and incomplete. And while my initial thought was to have the plaque demolished, death to that big slab of concrete, Source moved me to demand that the land be given back to the Bruce family. Now is the time for reckoning. Reparative justice is what we seek. Apologize, make amends, pay restitution to the Bruce family. Manhattan Beach restoration and reconciliation is not the sole responsibility of LA County. But thank you, Supervisor Hahn and Senator Bradford, for taking accountability and for positioning yourselves on the right side of history. Thank you for being waves in this movement with me as we are on the precipice. We, the movement, is on the precipice of making history. Thank you, everybody.